Ann, and we're here today with Narendra, who is a spiritual master teacher and the founder of Spirituality for Results. Thank you for watching. I'd like to ask you about a point you were making about relationships, and you were talking about the 4 facets, and you were saying that sometimes the couple are both working on 3 levels, physical, mental, and heart, emotional, and so that was a good thing that they're working together.
Correct.
But then you said sometimes one person might start growing spiritually and in their walk, and so that they're one difference from the other person. And so with that kind of relationship, I wasn't clear on whether that might work, because sometimes I think that if somebody's working on their spiritual life, if the other person notices it and they start working on it, then it might lift them. To me, that's the foundation of working on your life, that everything else it spills into all the other parts of your life that need growth. So that's one thought I had. So I was kind of wondering, would a relationship work if just one person started growing spiritually and the other didn't? I mean, is it doomed, or is it going to work?
It may or may not. You have to go back to the other skills. For example, if other person is not open, and if it's not constructive, then we have a problem. Let's say that you are sincere about your spiritual development, and you start making progress in the dimension, your 4th dimension starts to open up. Mm-hmm. And let's say he's in heart dimension, he can relate to feelings. But now, look what starts to happen. What does happen when a person's 4th dimension opens? Suddenly you start seeing maybe auras and colors, or you have some very vivid dreams, or suddenly you see light coming out of your hands, or maybe you can see things or start hearing things, and you get this bright idea, maybe I should share it with somebody I love. I've been married to this person for the last 15 years, how nice that I'll be able to share it with him. And guess what happens? Because he's not open, and because he's not constructive and not trainable, he thinks you are just drinking some funny juice, or you're smoking some wacky tobacco, you know? And then not only he becomes sarcastic about it, now you might find it very insulting, and demeaning, and discouraging. Because what happens then, the environment between you is polluted. Because what good relations thrive on maintaining a good, healthy, communicative, vibrant, and innocent and pure environment in between. The idea is that I can say whatever I want, and I'm never condemned or judged, and I'm always understood. But think about a different scenario. If the person is open and he says, you know what, sweetheart, that sounds very interesting, but I've never had those experiences, but I hope I have them too someday. Well, where do you go? Well, you go for meditation. Is that what's helping you? Maybe I'll go with you. Now you have a very cooperative person, and who's willing to grow with you. But only if he's able to take his men's size extra large ego and put it in his pocket and go along with you, you know? And there are a lot of good sensitive men like that in today's environment. But if you are married to somebody who's very crude and only very physical, he may not be able to relate, because the difference between 1 and 4 is way too much. That relationship is not going to work out. That is too much. It's going to eventually break down. So in that case, you're better off trying to start preparing, see how you're going to cut your losses. Because obviously the question here is, either you're going to torture yourself the rest of your life, him making fun of you, that you're up to some crazy, you turn into some kind of crazy witch, and do some crazy, drinking some funny potion, and you might think that, my God, this guy is so insensitive, that he doesn't understand me. And so either way you go, you got a problem. Because if he's refusing to grow, and if he's lower consciousness than you, lower than you, and if he thinks that there's no end to himself, then we have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And typically, you also have to consider the political situations within the family. Yeah, unfortunately, there are people who start out by loving each other unconditionally, but sometimes there are a lot of people out there. If one person is a breadwinner, he thinks just because he makes the money, he's better than the other person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and unfortunately, a lot of them happen to be men. Well, I make the money, so I'm better than you. Making money is a different skill. Thank you, you make money. I'm very grateful to that. But please don't confuse that with inner development of a person. It's the same way. Just because somebody is making more money doesn't mean he has a better health or a better hygiene. That's no guarantee. It's something he has to go learn, like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And so these factors have to be considered to make the relationship. And it's a life thing. It's a life thing. It's when people are making a love commitment to each other, it's a commitment to grow old together. Mm-hmm. Is to stay in continuous love and to keep that innocence and purity and playfulness alive. Mm-hmm. That, you know what, I'm going home and I wouldn't want to go anywhere else because I love him and I love my children. Mm-hmm. But when you feel that you have to pretend and you can't tell him this and you can't tell him this, and then he starts putting you down, then we have a problem.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And those are the kind of differences that start to come.
Mm-hmm.
So, in summary, my take on this one is consciousness of a person has to be considered, and consciousness depends on how far the person is developed, how many dimensions are open. Then also go into building a relationship is some of these attitudes like openness and behaviors like honesty, sincerity, ability to communicate and talk, mm-hmm. And sensitivity towards each other. And also it requires certain kind of skills like handling the money, managing the money, dealing with the in-laws, dealing with the children, and mm-hmm. they all go to build a relationship. Mm-hmm. And this is an ongoing thing. We are all developing this.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And the idea is, again, and each one of us have to make a decision. If you are a progressive person, and if you get stuck with a person who is not progressive anymore, then it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough challenge. Even though when you met in the high school, it was wonderful. Because you were about the same level, right? Mm-hmm. The one who is more progressive outgrew the other person. Mm-hmm. And the answer is very clear. If the other person is not even open to it or willing to grow, well, then that is a time, and I'm quoting Dr. Phil, that is a time you take that man and put his ass out by the curb. That's the world we live in. I'm paraphrasing Dr. Phil here. Because the idea here is what? Why should you or me or anybody else be stuck with somebody who has maxed out his growth level? It's almost like you're married to your furniture. It's reached its maximum potential. You're not going to come home one day and then you got 2 extra questions. Wow, how wonderful. Next day you got 15 more questions. Oh, maybe I can make a side business out of this. Some people just don't want to grow up. Oh. That's a fact of life. And my point is, to a person like that, please have a nice day. Oh. But please have it someplace else. That's, in my opinion, probably the better answer. Because ultimately you come to that conclusion. And I'm not saying that you're trigger happy, you're looking for a fight or something. But how long will it take? Oh. 2 years, 5 years, 15 years, 30 years, 60 years? I met people who have been married 50 years, 50, and suddenly the man says he needs his freedom, and he wants to split. He's got to be at least 80 years old, or at least 75. Suddenly he has heard, no, he wants freedom. What has been doing for the last 35 years at least? He could have had his freedom way back. But different people wake up different times, everybody listening to different kind of tunes. And I'm not here to judge anybody, and that's not what I'm saying. The idea is not to judge,
Right.
but we, in our back of our heart, we are always assessing things. And I'm also not saying be trigger happy and break the relationship. There have to be things considered. Maybe you have children going to school. Maybe there's health insurance involved. Maybe other sensitive areas. So you have to handle it carefully. But what I do suggest that at the minimum you can be very brutally honest with you that where the relationship is. That whether the person you are with is constantly improving and getting better, and still the same fun when you met him 20 years ago, or has he turned into like a brick, Then if you have a brick for a husband or a wife, then there's not much you can do. Pour on the concrete. Stick them in there. That's all you can do. What else are you going to do with it? Or use him as a doorstop. I mean, unfortunately, there are people like that in this world. And they grow up and all you can do is God have mercy on them.
There's somebody for everyone.
There's always somebody for everybody else. But this is because life is very dynamic. Life is very dynamic. In my opinion, if you believe that we are here to reduce the suffering, then reducing our suffering starts with me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I'm going to start changing the world from where I'm standing.
Love yourself first.
Yeah, I'm not going to hurt anybody. I'm not going to look for any fights. And I'm going to have an attitude of love and mutual self-respect. I'm not going to judge anybody. But at the same time, life is real. And we got to be real with ourselves and our issues. And if you're going to be dealing with people who are incorrigible, who are driven by negativity, and totally entrenched in it, and swear by it, or some dark people and destructive people, I would say it's fair that we protect ourselves and make better choices. Because that person is making a choice to do something destructive.
Right.
And we don't have to subject ourselves to that.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not,
Right.
then life is no fun. Life was meant to be something beautiful.